Yo, what up, good buddy? How's your Friday afternoon
Hello,
going?
welcome into the Dynasty Live Show. Sorry,
Always live,
thought
always a
we
different
needed.
time.
Thought we just needed to add a ridiculous intro. So sorry,
Yeah.
talking over you there.
That's right, man. So yeah, off on a Friday. I'm off on a Friday. Able to get together at 1:30 Eastern time. I'm loving it, dude. This is like the prime of my day
Right, man.
here. I'm more of a morning guy, morning afternoon. I'm always in my prime at this time.
I'm ready. I'm just getting rested up to go salamandering again. It's been a nice week of spotted salamanders, and
Yeah. Anyone
yeah,
in
no, I think
Ohio, northeastern
I give
Ohio
you a.
especially, knows that salamander season is always a fun season.
Yeah, no, I got a couple of pictures. You mind pulling them up for me?
Oh yeah, actually, I didn't actually save those pictures out. I apologize. I thought you were just
Um,
flaunting off your
no, I wanted to show everybody, but it's cool.
your
No, it's
manders. I'll give them a nice
yeah, no, it's
collage
pretty
here,
interesting.
but yeah, man. So what are you you plans outside of that this weekend?
Just looking at dynasty stuff, watching the ranks change.
Yeah,
Watched
man.
Roma Dunze now solidify himself at the 6th pick, and we're just slowly watching it take shape here.
Yeah, I think I've already started to hear some of these scary conversations of, I mean, you felt pretty good about 6-7. You were gonna get Odunze at one of those picks, and it's like, man, is he gonna end up going at the 104 on some of these drafts, or these quarterbacks are all of a sudden starting to leak little bits of value? It's been kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm honestly,
Yeah.
I'm still not really nervous about these quarterbacks. I think it's just, you know, it's just part of the process. We like getting this part of time of the year. Everybody hated C.J. Stroud. Sorry, pulling up the Mander
There they are.
photos here. Getting nice and big.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
man. Those are the Sallies. This is every spring I go out and when it's rainy, 55 degrees at night, I go to the vernal pool and just watch these little dudes slink in there and have an orgy. It's pretty awesome.
yeah, this is definitely, I know why I watch Dynasty content, and I'm always a little bummed out every time I get to the end of an episode, and I'm like, it's great content, but like, where was the salamanders? And how did I really gain
Right.
salamander value in that last video? So there you go, guy. There's a everybody go check out some manders.
Yeah, this is definitely going to add to your dynasty theme.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
But
speaking
yeah.
of finding lizards and other things, we're gonna do a little searching through the lizard pool here and keep trade cut and try to get inside the lizard hive mind that is KTC, and try to find our own values. Which honestly, once again, we always kind of preach on here that we are not professionals when it comes to like evaluating players per se, but this is uh really a process that every manager should go through, is pulling up keep trade cut, looking through it, because everyone has their own values, everyone has their own players that they like or don't like. So this is just our opinions. We'll kind of go through these and give you some ideas that we have, players that we think are screaming values or screaming sells, or what we're kind of doing with some of these tiers, whatnot. So yeah, you kind of want to. I kind of like the idea we were talking about earlier, kind of doing a little bit by position here. I think
Mm-hmm.
obviously the big position that everybody wants to make trades for right now is the wide receiver position. So honestly, I feel like we should probably just go ahead and jump into the wide receivers, get a good look at you know where these guys are laying out here. One second.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I went ahead and left
Yeah, and then
the
I think
rookie picks in
late.
here too. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm excited to maybe take a look at these positionally and then maybe bring them together and kind of see how it all lines up. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm already seeing a few things popping out to me with kind of Amon Ra and Puka being above Garrett Wilson and so close to Marvin Harrison, I really think that if Marvin Harrison does anything this year, he's going to jump up to easily wide receiver 3 or 4.
Hmm.
So that's one thing that's jumping out to me. Although we are kind of in this weird bubble where his value is already so high and the expectations are so high that it might actually be pretty hard for him to hit it. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, although he does have enough of that name cachet. I mean, we've seen, even Drake London holding top 15 wide receiver value for a couple years, even without much of the performance to back it up. So I think Marv is going to be almost one of those. Everyone's going to give him an easy 2 to 3 year window where he's going to retain, at worst, dropping down to like wide receiver 9, wide receiver 10, I would say would probably be the lowest value we'll see him if he really underperforms over the next 2 years. But he just really needs to go out there, get close to 100 targets, close to 1,000 yards, 5 to 7 touchdowns, which is not, more than a mid-end wide receiver 2 fantasy performance in the season to make him jump up there. I totally agree. You know, it's an interesting group of wide receivers that are above Marv. I love Amon Ra. So being 24 years old, all four of those guys, all being under 25 years old, man, if you get the opportunity to trade your 101 for any one of those players, honestly, I think I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Especially if you're looking to take the wide receiver, go ahead and get the player that you like and is in the offense already. Especially with Amon Ra, I'm pretty sure that you could get a little bit on top of that 101. Um, or sorry, yeah, be able to get like a little bit more too, for that Amon Ra. So yeah, I think
on that one, I think I would be taking the picks on that side because I don't know. I see Amon Ra's name right below Jamar Chase, and I see something different about the two teams. Like Jamar Chase, he's solidified as the number one option uh, for the offense on that team. And I see Amon Ra's picture just getting cloudier and cloudier because Detroit seems really committed to just taking weapons and loading up and spreading it around. Um, Jamar Chase doesn't have a Jahmyr Gibbs there, like siphoning touches away from him and stuff. So I don't know. I see those guys valued that closely, and I'm like, I see a disparity there.
yeah, yeah. No, I understand. It's more on that I don't know really what the ceiling truly is, for even Marvin Harrison in his first year or two. I mean, you kind of just know what you're getting at a point, and you're getting, I feel like, still getting elite production with an Amon Ra. It's still a slight bet on Marvin Harrison. Maybe he's too much of an X receiver in modern NFL. Who knows? I'm not saying that, you shouldn't be taking Marv in drafts, but I'm just saying there's always risk and reward, and always players that we have
Right.
valued higher and think are locked in studs and end up underperforming. We talk about, you mentioned earlier Garrett Wilson, same with Chris Olave. These are both wide receivers, in that top 10 draft capital in the NFL. They're both, under 24 years old. They just don't have a quarterback situation quite solidified yet enough for us to put them up with the top three guys. So yeah, what do you think about Chris Olave?
Dude, I think Chris Olave is like an awesome value there. Honestly, if I've got Ayuk, Waddle, or Tyreek, I'm gonna see what I have to add to get there. I just think that Olave is a lot more like secured in his offense. He's clearly the top option there. We just need to see a better quarterback and some better quarterback play coming out of New Orleans. And that's the main thing that's kind of keeping his value down. But I don't see that as a permanent situation. At some point, somebody's going to be getting him the ball. I don't know.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, he's definitely another thing that made us kind of fall in love with him during the process was just such a smooth route runner, and those guys just kind of seem to age like fine wine throughout their careers, and kind of like that Stefan Diggs type player where like you saw the flashes in his first 3 years, and then finally got that quarterback upgrade and was able to really propel himself to a high end wide receiver one for several years. That's the same kind of path I could see Chris Olave taking. When you're looking at these values here, and you're looking at almost 1,000 points between Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, I feel like that's a little bit just sex appeal. if you put it anyway, is
Right.
like Garrett Wilson just seems to like be sexier, but Chris Olave, I would always try to get the extra second round pick value from the tier down between the difference of the two. Um, Another one that I think is
So,
just kind of
uh,
low at this point.
real quick while we're on Olave, uh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Uh, yeah, while we're on Olave, I think Olave is a great option. You know, how I was, casting a little bit of shade on Amon Ra at that spot, but Amon Ra or Puka, if I'm going to tear down, I'm aiming for like Olave because I don't think you're losing anything on the talent end. There's just perceived less production because the situation might not be as good. But like, I think whatever you can pick up on top of Chris Olave from up there might be like a really great tear down.
yeah, yeah. So like, we're just kind of stay at that like tearing down from Amon Ra. Like, how far are you willing to drop down from Amon Ra and feel good about let's say a 2 to 3 year window? If you're getting a decent plus, just say
Um,
like a 25 first.
I mean, I definitely see some names I would be avoiding in here. Like, I'm not buying Nico at this value. I don't think I'm buying Tank Dell at that
But we're gonna talk
value.
about the players who we think are
But
under. Who are you tearing down for though?
I'll tear down to like Pittman. I love DJ Moore. I loved. I would do DK Metcalf from Amon Ra. I don't think I can go with any of the names below that. T. Higgins, maybe if I'm getting the right package and I'm like getting some draft capital to draft another young receiver that I'm excited about this year. But like with just knowing what wide receiver would be involved with the tear down, I think on this list I'd go as low as Metcalf
For
for
let's say
sure.
DK Metcalf and a 25 first, mid late.
Yeah, I'd rather get like a late first this year if I could.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen
Um,
anymore though. Those are already gone. So like,
yeah,
would you do a 25 first and DK Metcalf for your Amon Ra?
I think if you're smart, you do it honestly because I don't think the difference in production is going to be bigger than the value of that pick.
I mean, Amon Ra has been a consistent scorer. DK has struggled to produce top 12 numbers, I feel like the past 2 seasons. I think DK makes me nervous. I'd rather go up to, I think I'm like a player ahead, maybe, where like Zay Flowers might be a possibility. Jordan Addison is a limited ceiling. Like that's the only problem. Like I have to feel good about having other elite wide receivers on my team, and if I don't, then I'm not gonna go down to Addison.
Yeah, I
Pittman,
don't
I
like
agree with
a
DJ
tier.
Moore. Yeah, because these are alphas that
I
can
don't like
produce top
Addison or
12.
Flowers.
Yeah, I think I
As
think
far
that
as
the
like tearing
Flowers.
down,
I think people like Flowers enough, and he's shown flashes at the end of year one. and looking to take a step forward in year two. And he's a player that I'm not concerned with maybe adding, if they add more weapons around him. It's not evidently super hurting him because it's kind of like a big play weapon in that offense. And I just feel like his bond with Lamar is going to continue to grow. I hear a lot of NFL players talk about Zay Flowers in like a really positive light of like, oh, dude, he's going to be a dog. Like, oh, yeah, that guy, that guy. So it's just like sometimes some of just community speak stuff where I start to buy in a little bit more, even though I don't evidently want to buy in on that type of wide receiver as my alpha.
Yeah, I know. I traded Zay Flowers in a league for a pick that wound up becoming the 111. And I'm not sad about it at all because I'm looking like that could be Troy Franklin, that could be Lad McConkey, AD Mitchell, it could be Brian Thomas. Like, there's a lot of names that you can plug in there, and I think they all spark a little bit more joy in my heart than Zay Flowers.
Mm-hmm.
At least where we're at in the process right now.
So let's talk about this, like, let's say like 106, we'll call it, area of wide receivers. We got Nico, we got Devonta Smith, we've got Roma Dunze, we got Tank Dell. I would say pretty much you could say the equivalent to the 106 in the NFL or in the rookie draft right now. Um, how are you feeling about these players? I know you talked a little bit about some Nico and Tank discussion, so talk a little bit more about Nico and Tank.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely trying to sell Nico and Tank for either Devonta Smith or Roma Dunze if I can. There's no world where Rome and Tank should be really valued this close. Like, Rome is just like an incredible athlete. His, what was it, like a 998 RAS? Just blows Tank Dell out of the water, and like he has the option to become like an elite top wide receiver. Tank Dell is a product of CJ Stroud, and my real fear with both Nico and Tank is that like Houston's going to just keep getting more wide receivers and it's going to get cloudy because we saw Stroud make some like names that we haven't even heard of for a few years look good. So I'm kind of scared with those two, but Devonta Smith is kind of a grudge guy. I drafted him as a rookie. I've been like drafting him and keeping him on teams ever since. He's just a supremely talented guy that is pretty secure where like any year he could pop and have a wide receiver one performance over the year. It might not be as high of a ceiling as Roma Dunze, but I definitely value both of those guys above either of these wide receivers from Houston. I think that they're just kind of getting propped up because Houston did so much better than anybody expected them to last year.
Yeah, I think the idea they're already tethered to their elite quarterback. Let's say Rome ends up in Tennessee. They're sitting there at a top 10 pick. They need offensive weapons. What if they take Rome Dunze? Does that change anything for you? Or let's say the New York Giants take him.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm just gonna go with the guy with the ceiling here because I don't know. This is Tank Dell's ceiling. This is like a pretty safe value for Rome. So I don't want to take a guy at his ceiling where I could take somebody that could just be like a rocket taking off to the moon, you know?
I think it's bold to say this is Tank Dell's ceiling of wide receiver 18 after what we saw him do those healthy weeks when he was playing with Stroud last year. The reality is his ceiling is a top 7 dynasty wide receiver. You and I both are doubters on whether he'll actually get there or not, just because we feel like the idea of them wanting to put more weapons around Stroud is probably more likely than not. So you know, I've held on to some of my Tank Dell that I got in the fourth round of last year's rookie drafts, but I've also sold off a good chunk as well. He's a player I'm not taking at ADP. Wide receiver 18 does feel spicy for me, but I do see a world where the ceiling is there. So, I think that he's a player that's worth kind of testing around and just seeing. If you have him, put him on the block, see if there's someone out there willing to make the big move. And if you don't have them, go check the price on them. Just see what that owner is thinking. If they've got them at that, you know, wide receiver 20 range, maybe take a shot on one because, once again, we're looking to win. And looking at Tank Dell, he's a player that can win you a league if he hits his true ceiling. Um, yeah. I think another
My
player that we
my
were getting.
question is, here, try this scenario out real quick though. So we're hearing a lot of buzz of Saquon going to Houston. So say Saquon lands in Houston, and then say in the third round, Houston selects like a Xavier Leggett. Like, does that change the way we feel about Tank or Nico when you add just like two options like that? Because I don't see them spending a top pick on a wide receiver, but they're going to draft a wide receiver, I would say.
I think it's the thing with Tank is the way they utilized him in that Houston offense. It's not like he was like a gadget, Tavon Austin type player or anything. Like they were using him out wide. Like they use him in the slot. I mean, he got hurt blocking at the goal line. So
Yeah.
I they're not scared to utilize him all over the field, so I don't think there's a world where he's truly replaced. I think that he just maybe is utilized somewhere else in the offense. And I'm more concerned really about Nico long term getting replaced because I just don't know if Houston is going to want to make the major investment in Nico. I do think that this 2024 is going to be a good year for Nico Collins and Tank Dell, but I don't know about that 2 year, 3 year beyond. It's kind of how we felt about Michael Pittman a little bit prior to this season, where he shown some of the ability, but we also didn't know about him being long term asset with his team. Indianapolis is, I think, going to end up getting him locked into a long term deal at some point. These wide receivers, although they are coming into the NFL at a quicker rate than we've ever seen in the past 10 years, but they're also just the bust rate is still there. And, if you lose one and that high draft pick on a wide receiver can really set you back, as the Browns know with some of their busts on early wide receivers and second and third round wide receivers. Those misses just add up to just nothing burgers. So, yeah.
Cool.
I think two other players that I have no exposure to, and I keep trying to get some, but man, I feel like the price is starting to creep a little further up the board, but still has room to grow. That's Rashee Rice and Jaden Reed. I think both of those receivers are like right in that good range of where, like, if I can tear down from any player pretty much above this for them in a first, I'm probably looking to do it. And I think I'm higher on Jaden Reed than a lot of the community because I've ended up with him in a lot of startup drafts already this year. So it makes me already kind of show that I'm ahead of the curve on him. But he really feels like a Brandon Ayuk type player that's gonna just grow throughout his career, get more opportunities. We like Jordan Love. A few of the numbers that I did pull up. Obviously we're looking at probably some touchdown regression. He did score 10 touchdowns in his rookie season, which is a 13.3% rate, which is probably a little unsustainable. But the way they did give him carries in the backfield, his fairly high yards per route run as well. His fantasy points per target were actually number 5 among receivers, so he had 2.31 fantasy points per target. Um, so the really only difference between him and Brandon Ayuk, I feel like in year one was Debo Samuel was injured and Kittle was banged up, and we saw Ayuk with hitting 90% plus snap share, where with I feel like in this offense in Green Bay, Reed didn't quite get that opportunity to really have a larger workload, but his utilization was there. And the same with Rashee Rice, where just like start taking off with usage and carries and the little short screens and all that good stuff. You got any feelings about Rashee Rice or Jaden Reed?
Um, Rashi, like some of the guys that we were just talking about, Nico, Tank, I think Rashi would be a really good tier down for those guys. Because I do like Rashi's security a little bit more than either Tank or Nico. I you gotta love the elite offense that he's in, and I can only see him growing. Like they're gonna get another weapon there this year. So I don't know. Maybe we wait till right after the draft to buy because maybe his value takes a slight hit if they get another wide receiver in the first couple rounds. Um, but yeah, I like Jaden Reed a lot too. I think he's a great tear down from some of these like Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison types, where like right now, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers are kind of like holding the value that you kind of spent on them last year. I don't see that value holding where I do see Reed growing and I see Rashee Rice growing.
Yeah, Addison's been interesting because he was up to like wide receiver 14, 12 in some rankings throughout the season, and it's just kind of started crumbling down here. I know the addition of the rookies and some of the playoff performances from Rashee Rice is probably pushing some of them down the board a little bit, but yeah, I think one thing I was just kind of recognizing, a cool thing about Keep Trade Cut is they started adding these little bars over here separating the players into tiers. If you look at up here, we've got like, kind of small stuff. So I agree. We got kind of a JJ tier, and then we got the Lamb Chase tier. You got the Marv tier. You got Puka kind of sitting in his own tier right now. Same with Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, which is very interesting. Olave and Neighbors, like these are ones that I think they're all waiting to get shuffled. These are anyone that if you can move any one for another one plus, just do it. It's just whether the owner wants to give you the plus or not. If they feel better about the other one player than the other. So, and then you move down to here at wide receiver 11 all the way down to wide receiver 26 is one big tier.
Right.
Which is,
Yeah.
we're having a lot of player debates about players in this tier, starting with Brandon Ayuk, Jalen Waddle, um, the performance of a Tyreek Hill, all the way down to a Jackson Smith and Jigba, who was, disappointing in year one. So, but I
Right.
think that the tier down spots are really starting to look at this Jaden Reed. We both kind of have talked about George Pickens being a good value here now. Wide receiver 29. He is 23 years old, which is actually younger than Jaden Reed, younger than Zay Flowers. Um, Rashee Rice as well. And he has shown huge flashes in his first 2 years with kind of poo-poo system, poo-poo quarterback. Deontay Johnson, who is just a natural target hog in his offense. Everything has been against George Pickens since day one, and I think he's done nothing but show that he has the makings of an elite wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah. I've been in on Pickens for a while. I've been gobbling him up where I can. I did have like a disturbing revelation, and that was the Steelers don't seem to hold their value that well because a lot of these guys have had a lot of upside. Like think about Najee, think about Pickett, like they've been valued pretty high and then they kind of fall off. And I don't know what this is. If it's a Steelers thing, like even Deontay to a point, like, he was being valued really high and now where's Deontay on this list? Like we still haven't even seen him yet, right?
Right.
And like so he is definitely plummeted from like this time last year.
Yeah, yeah,
So
beyond wide receiver 40, which
that's
honestly is probably a huge value.
yeah. So I mean, I like Pickens the guy. I am terrified of the Steelers now. Like they're always perpetually good as a team, but like they seem to have a weird effect on the value of their players in fantasy.
Yeah, I think that that has just appeared to be true because of their, you know, our past recollection of the Pittsburgh offense has been the deteriorating Ben Roethlisberger into Mason Rudolph, into Kenny Pickett, and then Mason Rudolph. It's just been really poor play from the offense in general since that big 2018 2017 season where Ben was threw it for like 500 times that season. you know that was the last time we really saw that offense just generating tons and tons of fantasy points. So I think a lot of it just goes down to that we just don't know about this quarterback, but I think in general people love the organization and the stability of it. So when the right quarterback does land there, it's wheels up for a lot of players in that offense again.
Yeah, I would definitely like to believe that. I would love to see that happen for some of my Pickens stock and some of my Jalen Warren stock and stuff. Yeah, it's just, I think it's maybe a symptom of a team that has won by their defense a lot because we see Pittsburgh as a winning organization, but it's not always their offense that's getting the job done.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting into the vet section here. We got Mike Evans, we got Stephon Diggs, we got Devontae Adams, we got Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, all kind of in a stack here. Out of any of these old dogs for 2 years, I know McLaurin is 28 and a half, but I'm gonna just kind of lump him in here a little bit, just because community's faded on him a little bit. We might get a quarterback upgrade. We could see a better Terry. What are you thinking? What do you think about these five guys?
Just get me out of this tier, man. Give me anything you can to go down to Amari Cooper or, I'm more excited about some of these rookies. I don't think that this is necessarily where we want to be placing value is in the Steph Diggs, Devontae Adams. We know that like Las Vegas is trying to turn stuff around. I don't think it's an attractive situation for the rest of Devontae Adams' career, and I don't think that they're gonna trade him because they need to put butts in seats. I'm kind of oh gosh, Mike Evans is 30 and a half. Oh god, you don't love a 2-year window there. Yeah, just get me out of here. Give me Christian Watson in a second for my Devontae Adams, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I think those are we're a similar tier zone where someone's not going to give you probably a young asset and a future young asset for a decaying asset. But
Right.
if you're desperate to get off of your Evans, Diggs, Adams, Cup, um, you feel good about your team. You just came off of a championship with one of these guys. Who are you? You're gonna add your 2025 first to one of them to move up. Who are you? What are you trying to target to get in that deal? Like, what are you? What's the lowest thing you're doing to bail out by adding a first to an elite scorer to get off?
So you're saying I'm going to be buying a receiver further up the list for a 25 first and like Mike Evans or something or
Yeah,
Devontae
Mike Evans
Adams?
in a first for who's the lowest guy you're willing to take?
Um, oh God, you're not. I think you might be able to slide into like Devonta Smith there. Um, I would love to do that for like Michael Pittman or Rasheed Rice or DK potentially. I don't like spending that 25 fifth on DK though, as much as I do like him. Or 25 first, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Because that could honestly be a smash if you're the DK owner. Getting a 25 first and Mike Evans, who could have a similar 2 year production window as DK Metcalf, and you're getting a free 25 first. Things go wrong, all of a sudden something good's happening, and you're holding an extra lotto ticket. So, yeah, interesting
Mhm.
thought experiments. I feel like with some of these old dog receivers is what to do with them. Are you gonna ride them off into the sunset? Are you willing to add your future first to move up? And if so, who to? I think I would. I like the idea of Michael Pittman as a possibility. If I can get into Devonta Smith, I would consider that as well. Drake London is one that you might be able to get that deal done with. It feels almost like in my mind almost feels like too much for Drake London, which makes me feel like I could probably
It
get that
does.
deal done. And get maybe something like a third thrown back my way. Give me a future 26th third, and I can use it as trade bait for a running back during my win now window. Um, yeah. Uh, all right, let's check out this. Well, do you want to keep here with the wide receivers, and we can just kind of make this a wide receiver keep trade cut show? I mean, we're already we got about 20 minutes left, I would say.
I think maybe we should take a look at the quarterbacks too. We don't,
Okay.
tight ends isn't really going to be that fun to do. And running back, I don't think we're going to have the clarity on the position to really properly value it until after free agency and after the draft.
I
So,
will say on these running backs, I this is cojones season. If you've got the cojones and you believe in one of these top 12 running backs, they're not as expensive as they used to be. And you can go out and you could probably buy yourself a Devon Achan. If you think he's the real deal, I mean, we saw the ceiling. I mean, he could literally change your season this year. If you believe in a player like that, he is purchasable. We especially if you have 2024 picks, there's a lot of players here that people would be willing to move off of their Achan and get into more of these 2024 picks. Brees Hall is another one. These guys are 22 years old. Like, we're looking at a nice young stud stable of guys up at this top in our running back rankings, and nobody's talking about them right now, which just makes me feel like they're just a
yeah.
total purchase. So, keep that in mind. I think that honestly might be a good idea for another show in the future. Is diving into these running backs and where to pull our cojones out on, and who to maybe shrivel up around. So,
Yeah. Maybe leave those picks in there too.
yeah, you want to leave the picks down for these quarterbacks?
Sure. Yeah. Just
All
give
right.
us
So I think the
what an
biggest one,
what an ascension CJ has had.
right, man. He is very close to this Mahomes and Allen tier, and I think that's ambitious, and it's just a CJ security blanket. Is really what we should call him. Is he feels like a snuggie right now, where you could just put him on and keep toasty, and you're gonna score me fantasy points every week and look good on national television because he's gonna get all these primetime games, and it's gonna be great, and it's great. But for fantasy football, it's a different game. In my franchise, do I want CJ Stroud? Yeah, probably. He looked awesome. Like his decision making and all that stuff was great. In fantasy football, you know, I think there's higher or just as high potential players for way less price point.
Yeah,
So you are the
I
CJ
gotta
Stroud
agree.
owner. We'll do the same kind of experiment here. Where are you willing to tier that down to for, let's say, the 105? See, you're gonna get the 105 and another quarterback for your CJ Stroud. Who would you move down to?
I think you can go as low as Jordan Love. I want to throw Kyler Murray in there too because of how much we've seen him produce in the past, but I can't do down to Kyler Murray without seeing him produce. But actually, it could be actually maybe I would do Kyler Murray because I could maybe do a little finagling with that 105 and Kyler Murray to turn that into Marvin Harrison, Kyler Murray, and go ahead and pick up an elite wide receiver quarterback stack.
Mm-hmm.
Could be an interesting prospect to try to keep wheeling and dealing to get there. But yeah, I feel good about Love. I feel good about A Rich. Justin Herbert has taken a big hit. Like if somebody wants to give me Herbert and the 105 for my Stroud, like yeah, I'll do it every time.
Yeah, they're starting to get some Herbert panic. Jalen Hurts panic too, to be honest. Kelsey retiring, and people getting worried that one apparently only one guy in that offensive line was in charge of the tush push, and is why Jalen Hurts scores 10 plus rushing touchdowns a game. I mean, yeah, I can't believe Kelsey was single handedly like moving that entire offensive line in front of him. That's pretty impressive.
Right. On that move that they are probably going to outlaw anyways.
And I listen to a lot of the New Heights podcast, and you hear him talk about a lot on there. I mean, it's the way that it was taught to them, and the way they all. It's like, I'm going to guarantee that he's still living in Philadelphia. His wife is a huge Eagles fan. He is a huge Eagles fan. He's going to probably tell the next center, and he probably already has, how to do the tush push. Surprise. So, anyways, I think he's definitely a player that I'd be looking at. Just kind of looking at this as well. I mean, we're talking about C.J. Stroud and kind of maybe the limited ceiling that he has as far as a fantasy perspective. The guy right above him is 28 and a half years old. Patrick Mahomes, the man, the myth, the legend, the three-time Super Bowl champion. You know, do you think? I mean, that tier down even just Mahomes to Stroud. Would you just do that one for one right now, knowing
No.
their similar
Well, if I
ceilings,
have
maybe in?
Stroud,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll take Mahomes, but I'm not turning my Mahomes into Stroud. I am also not a fan of this Josh Allen over Pat Mahomes thing. I agree that maybe Josh Allen can do a little bit more with his legs, but
A lot more with his
there's
legs.
so much stability like with the Kansas City organization. There's I don't know. My belief in Patrick Mahomes is unwavering, and I just don't feel that about Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, if you look back though on, I mean, the stats don't lie, dude. I mean, Josh Allen just puts it up every year. And yes, he's had Stephon Diggs with him, but not a lot else. I mean, Gabe Davis isn't like a superstar. He's gone through a carousel of running backs. Really, Dawson Knox at tight end until last year with some Kincaid action. So he's generating a lot of that offense on his on his own as well, where Mahomes and Kelsey have had their connection. So, and he had Tyreek Hill for a good chunk as well. And I believe Mahomes has had two or QB1 finishes overalls in his career. That rookie his second year, but his first year starting, and then the 2022 season, where Josh Allen has pretty much been the QB1 every other year that Mahomes was not, or he's the number 2 quarterback. So I do
Yeah.
think that Allen's almost in that separate tier, like kind of like Justin Jefferson is to me a little bit. I used to always think the same as you, were Mahomes over Allen because I just know he's gonna be a champion for 10 more years. Where I don't know that with Allen, and he could get injured at any point. Where Mahomes is, I don't know, he's feels invincible. uh, but that's where you gotta start looking at, like, maybe I can get a lot of value tearing off of one of these players, down into Hurts, Herbert. What about Caleb? Are you interested in going from your Mahomes to a Caleb Williams plus? And how many pluses would you need on top of that Caleb to make you feel comfortable doing so?
It's a pretty big plus. I don't know if I could put it into words, but I would know it when I saw it. It just it feels risky. Like, Caleb's got a high ceiling and stuff. I have a 101 that I am very excited to smash Caleb Williams with that 101. But I do realize that there's instability there. Like, these guys that don't want to get an agent scare the shit out of me. Like, these, there's other just signs there that kind of point to just weird things that you're not experiencing with Pat Mahomes that are outside of the game of football. And yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be super excited to do it. If I've got Pat Mahomes, I don't really see any reason to move off of him unless your team is so bad that, like, it's your only way to rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I heard an interesting, it's been kind of going around on the X recently, is, how many years of 101s would you need to trade away Patrick Mahomes? Would you do it for, if you had a crystal ball and you knew you were getting the 2024, the 2025, and a 2026 101? Would you do it for those 3 picks, knowing you have to wait a year, obviously, for each one of them?
It would be rough. I mean, if somebody could offer me something more like Caleb, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May, like, as the 3 picks instead of 3 guaranteed 101s, you could maybe do that and feel pretty decent about it, because even if those guys don't ever become a Pat Mahomes, there's going to be value spikes that you could capitalize on and move around. But that's really what you're hoping for, is value spikes. If you trade Pat Mahomes, and you're hoping to just be able to trade whatever you traded for him. I don't know, because you can't ever expect somebody to attain Pat Mahomes value and hold Pat Mahomes value.
But Pat Mahomes eventually is going to be a 32, 33-year-old Dak Prescott, Matt Stafford aged quarterback, where we're seeing the 40-year-old Cliff 6 years away, even though, we could get 50-year-old Pat Mahomes out there competing with Tom Brady for rings. So, he could be perpetually
Yeah.
undervalued, but, there's always going to be a ceiling. There is going to be a cap. Like, Patrick Mahomes, just like Josh Allen, has already done it several years here in a row, is passed Mahomes up in a lot of startups. He will get passed up by another player. It could be CJ Stroud next year. I've seen it happen. We've seen Herbert go ahead of him. He always retains that value in the offseason, but the reality of, like, players being put ahead of him is coming more and more every year. Anthony Richardson at 21 years old with his athletic ability and strong arm and offensive coordinator, he could blow Mahomes out of the way for the next like 5+ years in point production, but it's not he's not going to win many Super Bowls. He's
Right.
still not Pat Mahomes. So I get it. It's where you kind of have to take the name off of some of these players. The deeper my roster is, the more I'm looking to move a Mahomes. The shallower, the more I'm probably just gonna hold on to that elite top 5 level production player every single year. Well, with a lot of
Okay.
that teed up, I thought I'd go ahead and bring up one of my trades. I was hoping that maybe I could, get the ball rolling so people felt good about one of the deals I made in one of my leagues. So this is a super flex start 11. It is a lineup league. 1.5 tight end premium. Um, I had in this league Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa. I had Deshaun Watson and Bryce Young. So obviously, outside of Mahomes, my 3 other quarterbacks were all players who play NFL quarterback, yes, in the NFL, but don't evidently have a lot of value. Outside of that, my team was pretty young. I've been doing a slow. It was a startup from 2 years ago, and I was kind of doing looking at a 2-year rebuild from the startup. Really the slowest grind of all my startups. And yeah, decided to make a move and see if I can add some more offensive weapons to my roster. Um, Traded Patrick Mahomes. I received Baker Mayfield, the 2024 101, and I would project a 2025 top 3 first round pick. So I can't say it's going to be a locked in 101, but it does feel pretty good that this owner had the 101 and went from Mayfield to Mahomes wasn't a huge point loss for me. So, yeah, what do you think about this deal?
Yeah, I like this deal a lot if that 2025 first winds up being in the top 5. And, I think that Baker Mayfield is a more secure quarterback and more valuable than consensus right now. So I think there's some sneaky value here. I'm thinking back to what I was saying like 2.5 minutes ago, where I wouldn't take the top 3 quarterbacks for Pat Mahomes. But this honestly, it seems reasonable. It'd be cool to even maybe like, I don't know if you're planning on taking Caleb since you have several other viable quarterbacks, but the idea of maybe even breaking that 101 up into like a 104 and a couple second rounders or something for your young rebuilding team,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it gives you a lot of options. And what is this, a best ball league?
No, it's lineup. And just so you know,
Okay.
I have the 101, the 106, 107, 109, and 111. So I do already have a decent control of the back half of the first round. I just kind of wanted another stud offensive skill player, to be fairly transparent. Probably looking at taking Marv with this team. I think that, swapping the points from Mahomes to Mayfield, add another wide receiver where, having a QB5 on my roster isn't evidently super appealing to me. Ideally, I feel like I'd rather hope a little bit more in Bryce Young taking a step forward. I feel good about Tua and Baker as my starting quarterbacks if I need them to be. Watson has contract security, so I don't think the Browns are looking to eat $200 million anytime soon. So he's probably going to be starting for a few seasons. You know, I it might be a little scary season in a couple years when I have a lot of good offensive wide receivers and maybe my quarterback um, carousel is getting less and less certain. But yeah, I think staying on top of it, probably that 2025, if it's a top 3 pick, it needs to be moved in some sort of deal to really solidify out my room again. But
Right. Yeah, I like that. I definitely suggest if you're just going to take Marv with that 101, like if you can trade back to the 103, 104 and pick up anything, like because worst case is you get Neighbors there instead of Marv, and Neighbors could be just as productive.
yeah, no, I feel like that deal is just getting harder and harder to do every day, though. And unfortunately, a friend of show, Blitzing Buzzard, owns the 102 and the 103 in that league. So he can
Mm.
be a hard buzzard to crack sometimes. But we got, man, it is draft season is really coming up fast, man. I feel like it was just a couple weeks ago it was looking like still so far away before our actual rookie drafts, but it is just around the corner. I'm excited, dude. Well, we got one more trade
Yeah,
that we wanted to go over. Hmm?
next week is free agency,
Free
right?
agency. Yeah, yeah. I'm always That's gonna be good. There's always some good stuff, man. If you're doing startup drafts during starting next week, have fun. Especially if you can get one going throughout the weekend, and then get into those mid late rounds while free agency news is just blasting out. Fun trades, like everyone's active, everyone's looking at stuff. It's a good time. Recommended to everybody. Well, we have one more trade I wanted to pull up. This is from one of our leagues that Ray and I started last year when we were under the Modern Dynasty nomer. Before we got realized that was the what Chinese soap opera. So we had to switch it up into the Dynasty Bebop, but we still got the league going. So this is a 12-team best ball. I believe also start 11 is a tiered PPR. So it's half point for running back, 1 point for receiver, and 1.75, I believe, for tight ends. In this deal, we have Pistol Pete, who trades away Devontae Adams and Terry McLaurin, and receives the 301 and the 107. What you think?
Yeah, give me the picks. Give me those picks, man. We were talking about the Devontae Adams and Terry McLaurin being both in this scary zone of wide receiver value. And I think if you can get this out of those two guys, you gotta. I think Terry's getting a boost right now because everybody's always wanted him to be a little bit better than he has been, and now they think he's finally gonna get the quarterback to do it. And with the way these picks are skyrocketing right now, that 107, you want to hope it could be Roma Dunze, but that easily could be JJ McCarthy or Brock Bowers. And like that 301, I'm seeing as a great opportunity to grab, a lot of different guys. You got Ricky Pearsall there a lot, Roman Wilson. We've got some Jalen Wright, the running back out of Tennessee. I've seen him available there in mock drafts a lot. So that 301 is really just like a cleanup pick on this like second round spillover. I think this is a beautiful trade for Pistol Pete.
Yeah. The more I look at it, at first you're like, all right, it's best ball. I do think Adams give you plenty of top 12 weeks this year in 2024. Terry McLaurin also, together I feel like I'm piecing together a full top 12 wide receiver throughout the season with maybe multiple guys having spike weeks. But then I'm looking also at best ball, what can I split Devonte Adams into? What can I split Terry McLaurin into? Like, I mean, kind of nothing, right? Like, you're kind of like just got those guys, splitting them. You're taking a lot of risk. We're like the 107. What can I split that into? I can split that into a 2025 first and a late 2024 second, probably, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I would consider re-rolling that 107 now. That was kind of feeling like the zone where if you're getting a 2025 first and something decent, then I'm probably looking to entertain offers in that situation. And the 301, I mean, that's this once again been deep. We're in best ball. I'll take a lot of third round darts if I can flip that 301 into 2/3. I'll do that all day. It's little things. So all of a sudden I traded Adams and McLaurin into 25 first, 2/3, and 2 seconds, and it's like, yeah, I'm feeling really awesome about those kind of deals. These are the kind of deals you need to keep working on. I feel like as you make one trade, don't just make one trade and feel like you've like arrived and you're just gonna settle there. You know, keep exploring opportunities because we're in a time of the season right now where not everybody's super involved. So they see a trade come across and like, oh wait, what? Well, I would have done more for a 107, and like, well, Pistol Pete already has it. He doesn't want to move it now, but like you throw some options out there. Like, hey, I'm willing to entertain some more offers. I just wanted to move off of these players specifically, but I'll move on to these players, Jaden Reed, George Pickens plus, that maybe I like better from your roster. So,
Yeah.
awesome, buddy. Well, anything else that you got on here you want to say to close out?
No, I think we're good. Oh yeah, no, actually I do. Real exciting stuff for us next week. We will have been doing this and annoying you with videos on YouTube for a year as of Tuesday. We want to do a mock draft. We want to do a live mock draft, and we need butts in chairs. We need people in sleeper. So please join us. We're gonna figure out a time, and it'll be more than an hour ahead of time that we let people know. But you know, we definitely want to do that this week. That was one of the most fun shows we've ever done, is just having a bunch of people in with us and getting wild.
Yeah, for sure, man. Getting the data dogs back together. I think it's always fun doing mock drafts, and it's even more fun when there's more people involved. So yeah, looking forward. Put a comment below if you're interested in joining us in our mock draft. We'll make sure to send you out a link as soon as we get it together. Tuesday afternoon. I work in the evenings. Ray works in the daytime. We'll try to find a spot between 4 and 7 probably to knock out this draft. So, looking forward to it. Tune in. We might even have some giveaways. I'm a big card collector over here. I'm always looking to help out help the channel grow. We're one subscriber away from 30 subscribers. Let's get up to at least 30 here, and then we'll start working our way up to the 50 mark, and we'll start doing more giveaways and having some more fun. Looking forward to seeing everybody on Tuesday. Enjoy the weekend, wherever you are, and we out.
Peace.
Bye.